coal in the Dallas shaft, they come to give us a contract too. They wanted us 4 men to advance ahead 7 feet a day. No way. We could blast when we wanted. That smoke went up them shafts. Us 4 men did everything we could do to lay a section of rail every day. That's 15 feet. We got paid $100 a foot bonus per man over that 7 feet. That meant I was making close to $200 a day plus my $45 a day in wages. Then in around 1968, the company took all of us cross-cut men from all of the mines in Bisbee. And they took us to a big building. That's about 40 of us. And they told us, look, the engineers, the geologists have relocated big bodies of ore under Bisbee. We want them. We want you railroad men. Go down there. We don't care how you do it. Just muck, timber, drill, blast, and lay the rails so we can get those miners in there. There'll be no restrictions. Basically, they turned us loose. There was times back in 1968, I was making right at $5,000 a month in bonus, plus $450 every 2 weeks in my wages. You think I saved any of the money? No, I got married twice. That'll break you. Now, there's one thing you need to know about all these railroads we were building. They had to be at a 2% grade going up. We had to let the water out. Now, this mine is basically dry. But between the Dallas, the Camel, the Coal, the Junction, and the Den mines, they were pumping right at 15,000 gallons of water a minute away from us. So everything had to have a 2% grade so you could have a ditch and send that water to the pumps. Now then, it always comes up. How many people died in the mine? During my time of 19 and a half years underground, I brought out 3. One was a heart attack. The other 2, well, that was too many. But that was right at the beginning of MSHA, OSHA, and the Bureau of Mines. Now, are you folks ready to go farther into this mine? Yeah. All right, where we're going, it's cooler. So I'm going to open up the gate, go down, get on that train, and I want you to look at those green lights.
Different colors. here. So. Oh.
Now then, if you was hanging around those railroads as a building, and you had that red light up ahead of you, you'd be sitting here waiting for a train to go by. We had bypasses so that trains could pass one another, or we might be waiting for one to go across in front of us. Well, I know where the other train is, so I'm just going to turn it green and go on. Are you folks ready to go on? Yeah. Let's go. Alright folks, you're 1,500 feet from the front of the mine. You got over 1,800 feet of this gray rock up above you. It also goes to the center of this earth. Now folks, I told you there's about 5,000 miles of railroad tracked underneath you. Guess what? I know where all the holes are. So what I want you to do is step off those cars to your left again. I want you to come towards me. And I want you to please.
You have to be like, be brave. You be brave. You're the oldest. Stop being a wimp.
Okay.
I don't understand what's so scary. I knew it.
Come on down this way. Come on down. I got plenty of room right in here. Right on down. You can get in right about that little area right there. Now, some of you can get in behind this car. You can get up next to this timber right there. Right across there. Get in right there where my light is. Come on down this way, folks. Get in here, sort of bunch up a little bit.
Okay.
Now then, the reason I have you people up against that wall is, if it should happen to fall, I'm going to be okay. Don't matter to me. Now then, I want you to look at something. 1, 2, 3, 4 chute doors. Behind them chute doors is a great big hole called a pocket. And it goes from this level to the next 2 levels up. That's how they transferred ore from up above us to this level to take it out. Now then, back in 1915, they hired stout young men. They brought them down here. They gave him a job title called trammer. That young man would come down here, take a car like this, called an A car. It holds 3/4 of a ton of rock. He'd push it up under one of these chutes, get on a little platform, open up that door, and fill it up. Then on this level of this mine, he would get behind this car and he pushed it to the front of the mine, dumped it, and came back all day long. Then in around 1917, they brought mules underground. Now the mules did quite well, but you have to understand something about them mules. They were smarter than the average miner. They actually formed the first union. They would pull 4 of these cars and no more. When they tried to give him that 5th car, that mule had already learned to count. When he heard that 5th chain pop, he quit pulling. Take that 5th car off, and away that mule would go to the front of the mine, get his cars dumped, and then come back. And then around 1925, that little motor that I pulled you in here with came underground. It's called a Manchi motor. Runs on batteries. Pull about 20 of these cars, and the mules were all taken out and put in a pasture. Now then, up in that scope, told you I wound up being a crosscut man. You obviously figured out also when I told you how much money I was making, I was called a bonus hound. I wanted to make money. But there was times when me and my partner would step up to catch that cage to go down. My good shift boss, Bob Hart, would say, "Benny, you can't go to the crosscuts today. All of the pockets are full. There's not a place to have your rock dumped. What we're going to do is we're going to send you and your partner 2 extra levels down below. We're going to split up a train crew. You're going to go with Charlie Ray, your partner's going to go with Herman, and now we're going to run 2 trains. You're going to be swampers. You're going to load and unload mine cars till you get all the pockets pulled down." Didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a choice. Now I'm down here pulling rock. Now I told you those mines were wet. You had water running out of these chutes, getting in a ditch, headed towards them pumps. Well, there's times you'd pull up to one of these trains, stop in one of these chutes, open up that door, and that wet rock would run out of there like it was the river itself. Maybe the next chute that you came to, you opened up the door and nothing would come out. It was like glue, paste, gumbo. Nothing would move. And they had this bright idea. We're going to put across this car what is called a laggin. Now, a laggin is a 2x12, 5 foot long. You're going to step from this little platform onto that laggin, prop that door open, then take a steel bar like this, called a chute bar. And you're going to stand on that laggin with that door open, and you're going to reach up in there, and you're going to start bumping 800-900 tons of loose rock. It's going to come down. If it comes down too fast, too quick, and you can't get this bar out of that door in time, you have a spill. That means you're on your hands and knees down here digging rocks out from under these wheels. And what kind of shovel did they give us to clean up the mess? How about a square point shovel with a 3-foot hammer? I got tired of that. I went and found an old swamper, been on them trains for years. I says, how do you do this day in and day out? Because every time I stick that steel bar up in that hole, rocks come down, they hit my hands, my hands are bruised, my knees are killing me. He looked at me and he says, what's the matter with you, Benny? You're a miner. Why don't you let the Indian get it down? Well, I knew who the Indian was. The Indian happened to be dynamite from the Apache powder plant out of Benson, Arizona. Take a stick of dynamite, tape it to a stick, take a 12-foot fuse, cut off 6 feet of it, open that door and shove it right up as close as you can get it to that rock. Be sure you shut the door before you light it. You light it. You tell that motorman, you go down there and guard, I'm going this way and guard, because I didn't want anybody to walk by that chute till that shot goes off. Once that shot goes off, I come back after the smoke is all cleared, and I'm through visiting with whoever I can find in the mine. Now, if that door's full of rock, it's called rock in the box. If there's not much in it, it's called a hatful. And if all I got out of that little blast was a hatful, that meant I had to walk all the way back to the powder magazine to get another stick of dynamite, because if they caught me walking around with an extra stick of dynamite in my hip pocket, they'd give me 3 days off. I'd been blasting on one of them chutes for a while. Bob Hart, my good boss, walks up and says, what's going on, Benny? And I said, Bob, it's like glue up there. It just won't fold together and come out. He said, let me look. At this time, Bob did the one thing that miners know you do not do. He got up on that platform, stepped onto that lagging, propped that door open. Now, Bob's decided he wants to crawl up in that hole and see where that rock's at. Bob took his helmet off. And as he's going up into that hole, there's a rock just about that size that comes down. Didn't hit him on the head. Should have. Got him on the arm. Bob come out of that hole. His eyes were about that big around. He looked at me. He didn't know how much was going to fall. And he says, Benny, just go get all the Indians that you want. From that day on, anytime they put me on a train, you think I touched that steel bar? Nope. If it didn't come down, I blasted it. Now, there's another thing you need to know about the mines in Bisbee. That shift boss has to come and see each and every miner twice a shift. Now, some of these shift bosses walk as high as 5 miles before lunch, 5 miles after lunch. And they went to the company and said, look, we need transportation on every level. The company says, you're right, we'll give it to you. And they did, folks. They built them bicycles that run on rails. I can tell you when this bicycle was built. 1961 was when the banana seat came out. And they told all of those shift bosses, now you got to be careful with these bikes. We didn't buy them. We built them. They'll go as fast backwards as they will forwards for the simple reason we didn't know how to put the brake system on. Now, did we mess with the shift boss? Yes. You know what happens if you leave the right kind of a rock or a piece of wooden wedge on that rail? If you look at that bent up handlebar post. Why don't you tell me what his vocabulary was after he smacked it into the wall? And they told us, you miners will not ride this bike. That's like telling these kids they can't touch the toys at Walmart. Did I take this bike? Yes, I did. Did I ever bring it back? Never. And if that shift boss walks up and says, I can't find my bike, I left it right here, you tell him, well, look down there. Why don't you look over there? And he said, how to get over there? You think we copped out? Nope. We told him Headless John took his bike. Headless John got blamed for everything. Come on, folks, we got some more to go. Come on in, folks, line up against that wall right there. We're going to be right here for about 5 minutes. Come on in, line up against that wall.
What? Okay.
the end of the bench. Just sort of back up against that wall right there. We'll be all right. Come on in here, folks. I can get some of you right in that little area right there, too. And some of you can bang up right up against this wall right there. All right, folks, you know what you just did? No, you don't, so I got to tell you. You just walked through a fire door. And if you look, stamped into that cement right there on that edge, 1917. Did they have fires underground? Yes, they did. Remember, they had candles. Miners that get careless, kick the candle over, or maybe he's taking a nap and it burns down into some sawdust. Well, they'd just come in, shut them steel doors, bring in a fire crew, and snuff it out. Now, in this system right here, this is called a single setup. Two men that put this post up where they want it, put this bar where they need it, pick this machine up and set it up here. This machine weighs 280 pounds. The good thing about this machine is it runs with air. It has water going through it. It also swivels. I can drill a hole there, a hole there, and a hole there. Break those nuts loose, bring it around, and drill another one. Now, the only bad thing about this machine is it uses a steel bit. Now, it's a Timken bit. Timken bits are still made in Los Angeles and Denver, Colorado, and it unscrews. But folks, if I was going to try to drill 25 to 26 holes into this wall behind me, better bring about 40 of these bits. That ground right there will hammer this bit down like a mushroom. That's hard rock. Now, when this machine came underground before me, it left before me. I'm glad I never got to run it. This machine runs on air only. There is no water going through this machine. And it'll run. And if I start drilling a hole into that wall right there, I can guarantee you in about 15 minutes, I'll fill this whole room with a white dust powder. One of us is going to have a sinus problem. One of us might even get started into emphysema. Miners had a name for this old machine. They called it the Widowmaker. You run it very long, you could be gone. Now then, this next little machine here, it's a Cadillac. Actually, it's a Gardner Denver jackleg. Weighs about 165 pounds. Now, the good thing about this little machine is it runs with air, has water going through it, has a leg that does all of the pushing. If I'm drilling somewhere and I have a hole right there, I'm going to throw that throttle forward, adjust the air in that leg, and stand just like this and drill what is called a 7-foot hole. Now, this machine is very fast and it's very loud. I still say huh a lot, especially around the house. But it uses a square piece of steel, but it's got a tungsten carbide bit on it. I can drill 40 holes before I knock this bit off and put another one on. How fast is this machine? I can take this machine and this piece of steel, and I can drive it all the way into that wall in 5 to 7 minutes. Now, it's a machine. All machines have problems. Yes, it runs with air, it's got water in it, it's got a leg doing the push. Let's say me and my partner are drilling somewhere. Up walks a new man. And you say, I want to be a miner. Teach me how to drill. Show me where the holes go. I want to learn how to blast. And we'd tell him, have at it. Well, he'd run over here, jump on this machine, and throw that throttle forward. Folks, the minute that man put his leg on the other side of this leg, you reached out, you grabbed a hold of him, and pulled him away from it. Folks, this leg will extend to 8 feet. It's also got an air pressure of 150 pounds in it. If it slips off of the ground, all of them instantaneously pop up this high first and then goes to the 8 feet. You see that handle right there? That handle right there can make a bad man sing soprano in the church choir. You're going to be calling him Squeaky for about 2 weeks. Come on, go with me. I'm going to show you how we flash this. All right, folks. If you look at this wall, it's got these fuses in it. That's called a face. Everything in front of a miner is a face. The back is the back, the bottom is the floor, the sides are called the ribs. And if we was to blast this and get what I wanted, I could take that square set of timber right there, twist it, and go right into that wall. Now that's the back holes, the breast holes, the two relievers, the skimmers, and the lifters. This right in here, folks, is not a funny face. It's called a 5-hole burn. It's drilled in this hard rock for a reason. When this center hole goes off, it breaks to these 4 dummy holes. Now the idea of this is, I've got to make a cavity right here, 7 feet deep. Then I'm going to blast 1 hole at a time. If I tried to blast them all at one time, I wouldn't get a foot of that rock. That dynamite will blow out of them holes like a shotgun blast. Now in the early days, I'd take a stick of dynamite, a cap and a fuse, and using a stick like this called a loading stick, put 1 in each hole, gently. Then my habit was to come back to here. I'd take 14 sticks of dynamite, split them with a pocket knife. As I put them in, mash them. I can mash new dynamite. It's fairly safe. And I'd probably put 12 in all the rest of them. Eventually we quit using so much dynamite. Dynamite's gassy. Well, the nitroglycerin is what's gassy. What we started doing is putting 1 stick of dynamite with a cap and a fuse in each hole. Then from a big paper sack with an air gun, I filled those holes up with a compound called carbamide. Carbamite's a mixture of coal dust, diesel fuel, and ammonia nitrate. Same thing that blew up Texas, the FBI building, stuff you want to put around your roses. Commercial fertilizer. It will explode. All right, let's say we got it all loaded up, and it happens to be about 30 minutes before quitting time. Well, I'm going to step to the face with a little board like this called a spitter board. I'm going to take this first fuse that I want to go off. I'm going to cut off about 18 inches of it, and I'm going to put it on this board. Then taking that piece that I cut off, I'm going to grab this fuse, and I'm going to measure this one out to be about 1 inch or a ½ inch longer. Throw that one down, pick up this one. Measure this one out to be about a ½ inch longer than the last one. Every fuse that I'm going to be cutting is going to be approximately a ½ inch longer than the last one. That way I've set this up. So when I light this round, I'm going to start right there. Create my cavity, then 1 hole at a time, enlarge it. Now then, happens to be 15 minutes before quitting time. My partner and I both have a little rod like this called a spitter rod. Has a magnesium solution molded onto it. Burns at 1200 degrees. Why do we have this? Well, I've already talked to you about all that moisture we had in these mines. These old dynamite fuses were black powder. And I've been a-cutting on them. That black powder absorbs moisture. I've got a wet bubble on the end of each one of these. I could stand here with an old Zippo cigarette lighter and never get them all lit. This, burning at 1200 degrees. I'll start out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Till I light 25 to 26 holes. As soon as I have them all lit, what's left of this, I'm going to throw it down right there. Folks, this thing only burns for 40 seconds. Am I starting to tell you something? Definitely. These old dynamite fuses burn 1 foot for 40 seconds, and I've cut off 18 inches of it. By the time I've lit that hole down there, that one's in the hole. I need to take a walk. Now, you never ran into mine because you didn't want to take a chance of stumbling and falling in front of your blast. But we'd have time to walk to the train, walk down the driftaways. As they went off, we counted them. If I had the right count, that's fine. If I didn't have the right count, I would tell my shift boss when I got on top, please have that opposite crew look for a mist hole. And it did happen from time to time. Why? I did not want that opposite crew to come down here poking around with a steel bar or a pick, Hit a stick of dynamite's got a cap in it. He's blasted. Let's take a walk into that big room right in there. Come right on in here. We got room. Just sort of gather around. All right, folks. You're now at the Southwest Mine. Right here's the shaft. This shaft happens to be 700 feet deep also. But it's also called an interior because it's a shaft inside of another mine. Now then, this big piece of equipment right there, that's called a cage. That's a standard cage. 12 men can ride on that cage. Now then, this cage is run with a little electric motor and a hoist up above, and it kind of goes up and down, sort of like a sick elevator. But now, if you had been down around our traffic circle on US 80, and you looked to the southeast side and saw that real tall, skinny gallows frame going up over that hill, that is the Camel Shaft. That is the fastest running shaft of all of them. When you came to work on a Monday morning, after a holiday weekend, and that cager brings that cage up, stops it, that shift boss opens this gate and says, let's go. You want to be the first man that gets on that cage back up to that wall, lift the other 11 men back up to you, especially after a holiday. Why? As soon as that cager says, let's go, and he pulls that rope, that hoisting engineer drops the brake. You feel like you're free falling that first 100 to 150 feet. Why do you want to be standing in the back after a holiday? Guarantee you, as you're starting down, if somebody's got a bad hangover, something's going to be coming up. And if you can't get it in the back, you grab your shirt collar, you pull it up next to your neck. That way, if anything comes up, at least it's on the outside of your shirt. Now then, this little car right here is called a K car. We use these at the Dallas mine. The Dallas mine was a nasty mine. It was a wet mine. It was a caving mine. We could drive a straight crosscut, straight in. In about 2 to 3 months, that ground would start to twist and turn and heave. So we wouldn't have to move the timber too often. We use that car right there. This big old car is called an E-car. Holds 3 tons of rock. When you came into our facility, I know you saw that trolley motor outside. That trolley motor on the main haulage run could pull 30 of these cars loaded at about 40 to 45 miles an hour. Now then, this little car right here is called an H car. Holds 1 ton of rock. This is the kind of cars that I used in the crosscuts. Remember I said those crosscuts were about 10.5 feet across on the bottom? Well, we had what we called a super switch. Actually, it was 2 sets of rails welded to a steel plate with a switch on each end. I could bring 6 of these cars empty on one side, send 6 loaded cars out on the other side. This piece of equipment right here, it's called a Finley. It's nothing but a glorified front-end loader that runs on rails, all powered by air. And when you threw this handle down, this machine righted itself, and that bucket full of rock came right over into this car. Take about a minute to a minute and a half to fill this car up. Now then, you've been following me around in this mine. You now know it's a copper mine. Has anybody got any idea what kind of rock this is? Well, I better tell you. It's called leverite. Leverite there because it has no copper value whatsoever. Now, we're going to pretend that you people are all miners. You're on the 2,800 level of the Camel Shaft. That's the last place that I worked. That means you're 2,800 feet down underground. You have a stomach problem. Where are you going? How about right over here? It's not a barbecue. This is called a sanitation car. You think we called it a sanitation car?
Nope.
Nope, started with an S. And at the Dallas, we hung all the toilet paper up there on the wire. Why? We had rats and we had cockroaches, big ones. Now we fed them. We didn't pet them, but we kept them for a reason. If you're working somewhere and all of a sudden them rats and cockroaches take off running, you better go back here and look at your mountain she's a caving in. They could sense the movement of the earth before we could. Now let's say we got a new man that needs to utilize this facility. And I'm saying a new man. So we'd walk him around till he's about to bust or die. We'd bring him back here, take his hat, take his lamp, and put it over there. Tell him, get up there and sit down. Do your business. You think I'm going to stand here and look at him? No. As I walk away from him, remember what I said the grade of the track was, 2%? I kicked the wedges out from under them wheels. He's a-moving all right. As he goes a-rolling off down to the dark, he'll start screaming, squalling, falling, throwing a fit, and somebody's going to tell him, set the brake. He'll grab a hold of this and twist it. Folks, these cars don't have a brake. That's a valve that dumps it. Once this car gets stopped, we'll show up with a 5-gallon bucket, a shovel, a sack of white lime, and a water hose. You know what his job is? Oh yes, cleaning it all up. You know what you call it to a new man? Initiation. He's been initiated underground. Did all new miners get initiated? Yes. There ain't no sense in me lying about it. I got to shovel it too. Now then, folks, we're going to walk towards that train. I got to talk to you when I get there. But when we get into the building, as you walk in, I want you to walk on the outside of the counter this time. Leave your lights at the end of the counter where you got them. Put your hats and vests on the far end. We'll put them up. Now then, we're going to walk out to the train. I got to talk to you some more there. But my partner's standing out there. Now, he's not broke and he's not begging. But he's got a little can. I have to get your tag. I have to count how many came out of the mine as well as how many went in. So let's walk towards that train. I got to talk to you one more time.